What is up, guys? My name is Lex. I'm here at Seminole Casino, Coconut Creek in South Florida. Haven't been here in around 6 months. My last time here, I played my meetup game, which was the end of January. Game looks good today. It's a 10-10 no limit game, $3,000 buy-in. Let's get down to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. As I've said a few times in this vlog, my favorite seat is the end seat, seat number 2 or seat number 7, so that I can get the full viewpoint of the table. Unfortunately, today I was a little bit late showing up to this game. There was only one seat open, which is the middle seat, which is where I'm going to be today. I've got ace-10 offsuit. I raised a 50 over a limp and get 3 callers. 10, 7, 7, 2 spades, top pair, top kicker for us. Kind of a cool difference here in this vlog is I'm not going to do graphics. I'm just going to let you guys see the board. With top pair, top kicker, I bet out 135. I get 2 folds, but the early position limper now check raises me to 350 bucks. My hand is very strong, but I am losing to some hands, maybe some overpairs, which is very unlikely given the fact that he limp called pre-flop, possibly some 7x hands, 5-7, 6-7, 8-7 suited. He could also have some flush draws or straight draws. He has about $1,000 left, so I'm just going to go with my hand. I raise him all in, and he makes a pretty quick call.
I left as soon as you got here.
I don't know.
Whatever you want.
What? Nice one. I got 2 pairs. I got 2 pairs. I got 10.
Chop, chop. A little bit unlucky there, getting it all in for over $3,000. Ace-10 versus 9-10 on a 10-high board, but we do run it twice. I lose the first one and win the second one, concluding in a chopped pot. Next, with blinds at 10-10, I raise the $35 in middle position with ace-king. Cutoff makes to call, small blind makes to call, big blind makes to call, and we flop trips 4 ways on ace, ace, 10, 2 spades. Big blind open folds. On me now, only 3 players left. I bet $50. Cutoff snap folds. Small blind calls. Heads up now to the queen of hearts on the turn. Actually, that's the queen of diamonds. Never mind. He checks. I bet 150. And my opponent calls very quickly. Put him on a flush draw here, possibly a straight draw and a flush draw. River card 7 of clubs. Feel like I can't get too much more value, just hoping maybe he has a 10, possibly queen 10. So I'm going to bet, and once I put out 225, he shows jack 9 of spades. Huge combo draw that misses, and he folds, and we win this one with trip aces with a king kicker. We play a big pot coming up next. Dealt in queen of clubs, queen of spades. Beautiful cards. I make it $40 before the cutoff player re-raises me to 150 bucks. There isn't too much 3-betting pre-flop in this game, so I think he's going to have a strong hand, but pocket queens are very strong. I'm going to 4-bet, make it $400 here out of position. My opponent makes a pretty quick call, so just like that, over $800 in the middle. 4-bet pot, pocket queens to a flop of 9-3-7, 2 hearts. I am liking this flop. 4-bet pot. I'm going to bet big $500, hoping he's got hands like pocket 10s or pocket jacks that he feels like he can't fold. Given the fact that we don't have the queen of hearts, he could easily have a queen high flush draw. He makes a call for $500, over $1,800 in the middle to the deuce of diamonds on the turn. The pot is big. My hand is strong. 4-bet pot. I feel like you guys know what's happening next. We are all in.
Fuck, that's a good fucking bet. No, you got fucking queens or kings. So annoying.
My opponent seems pretty frustrated. He says, I know you got queens or kings. I'm hoping that means he's got pocket 10s or jacks and he's going to call, but eventually he folds. He says he's got king jack of hearts. We run out the board and he ended up missing both times. Queens are good to take down a little over $1,000 of profit in this hand. I take a quick break, go outside, film the intro, come back in and get dealt in pocket aces. Straddles on, call for 25 or raise to 125, get 2 callers, 3 ways to jack 7-5, all diamonds. Not my favorite board, don't have the ace of diamonds, but I'm going to bet, see what happens. I make it $200. If I get raised, I'm probably beat. Looks like aces are way ahead when everybody folds. I take a quick snapshot for a thumbnail for YouTube, then give the cards back to the dealer, collect around $200 of profit in this hand.
Let's make the block.
Either one of us can beat the blog. Blog. Check.
Vlog with a V. 100.
Cam says V.
It's a V.
I know it's V, but he said V earlier.
I say B.
You said V.
Vlog, blog, smog, frog. I don't know what's going on, but I've got an open-ended straight draw on Queen 10-3. I bet $100 and get a call from the small blind. Heads up to the jack on the turn. Interesting card because it brings in the obvious straight draw ace-king. Given the fact that the small blind didn't 3-bet me pre-flop, I feel like the chances of him having ace-king are very, very slim. Also because I have a king in my hand, so I decided to bet over the size of the pot here, $500. I choose this sizing for two reasons. One, to put max pressure on queen X hands or two pair hands, flush draws and straight draws, and also because I feel like I'm just never going to get raised in this situation, given the fact that the small blind player is a thinking player, understands pre-flop ranges and board textures. I feel like he's never going to raise on this board type, given the fact that he didn't 3-bet pre-flop. He should basically never have ace-king. I think I'm going to bet big here on the flop. If he does call, I may have to unload the clip with a huge bet on the river to try to get him to fold out a two-pair hand, but that doesn't happen when the small blind raises me to 1,600.
Big circle. How would you ever have ace king there?
When Ned flatted me with ace king in the small blind.
After losing with king jack, I also lose a couple more hands, and I'm down around $2,000 on this session. I've got pocket deuces now in the small blind. Straddle's on, it folds to me, I raise to 75. Only the straddle makes the call, so I'm heads up, out of position to a pretty bad flop for pocket deuces. 9, 7, 6 with two spades. Not going to be putting any money in on this flop, so I check, and my opponent very quickly checks behind. Turn is very good for us, giving me a set with the deuce of clubs. Went from a bad board to a good board. I bet out 150, and my opponent makes a pretty quick call. Going here to the river, which pairs the board with another 6. We have made runner, full house. I now have to decide what's the best way to try to get the most money out of this hand. Should I bet, or should I try to set the trap and check over to my opponent? I think the best option here is to check my full house. Given the fact that I checked on the flop and my opponent checked behind, he shouldn't have a strong hand on this board. Also, I bet the turn and he just called. I feel like he's going to have a lot of straight draws and flush draws or over cards that misses on this river. And if I bet, he just can't call with those hands. If I check, however, it could induce him to bluff with those missed straight draws and flush draws. So that's what I do. I check, and he does fire out a $300 bet. Now, obviously, we're never just calling here with bottom full house. We're going to raise and hope that maybe he hits something. Like I said, I don't think he has a top pair. Don't think he's got a set or a straight. But the best case scenario is that maybe he somehow hit the 6 with a hand like 5-6, 8-6, ace-6. So I'm going to bump it up here, try to go for the max against those hands. I make it $1,500. Once I put out this bet, I feel like the hand's going to be over very quickly, but to my complete surprise, Estrato goes all in now for $3,500 total. I was not expecting this at all. This is a super strong line by my opponent. I check raised 5x to $1,500, and he snap jams all in for $3,500 total. It's only $2,000 more for me to call, but is he ever doing this with a hand worse than a full house? I have the worst full house on the board. I lose to every other combination of full house possible. I feel like he doesn't have a straight. He wouldn't be playing a 9x hand like this. Could I fold my bottom full house here? After thinking for about 5 to 10 seconds, I figure, hey, if he's got me, he's got me. I gotta call and see what I'm up against.
I have a full house.
After Shrug calling off $3,500, my opponent says you win. Wow, that escalated quickly. A small pot on the flop turned into almost an $8,000 pot here on the river. I was stuck over 2K on the day, and now I'm up $2,000. A crazy sick hand, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be pissed and curious to what my opponent in the straddle had. Well, I've said this time and time again that in these kind of games, if I'm up against an opponent who doesn't play poker for a living, I'm just going to show my cards first, and if he wants to show, he can. If not, he can muck his cards. My guess is that my opponent was just trying to make a move here on the river. If he did get coolered or bad beat with a straight or trip sixes, I feel like he would probably show that to the table. Given the fact that he didn't show his cards, he was just probably trying to make a move, thinking that my raise didn't make too much sense. Either way, we get lucky in a huge pot and now have over an $8,000 stack. It's now around 9 o'clock. I order myself a steak, mashed potatoes, and a glass of red wine from one of the steakhouses here, NYY, get myself filled up and ready to play some more poker. Early position raises to 75. Ace-10 of diamonds I call in the big blind. Under the gun straddle calls. We flop top pair, top kicker on 10-6-5 rainbow. Action checks all the way around. Turn card 9 of diamonds. I check again. Now under the gun straddle leads out for 150. Original raiser calls, and I feel like in this situation, I could put in a small check raise for value. Given the fact the initial raiser didn't bet the flop, he shouldn't have any overpairs. I feel like the under the gun player could have some straight draws, flush draws, weaker 10x hands, so I make it $400. Back over now to the under the gun player who calls 400, initial raiser folds. Bad card on the river with the 7 of diamonds. I'm now heads up with the under the gun player. Feel like once this board runs out, one liner to a straight, and the flush draw misses, I'm just going to check, and hopefully this goes check, check, but it doesn't. When the under the gun player now bets out $1,300, a huge sizing here on the river. When my opponent bets his sizing on the river, he's saying he's got a straight or a bluff. This is a polarized bet sizing saying I've got a really good hand or I've got nothing at all. Feel like there is some bluffs in his range. Hands like Queen Jack, King Queen, straight draws that miss. There's also flush draws, club flush draws that miss as well, but would he really be trying to bluff on this board, on this particular run out for this sizing? I don't know. It's kind of close. He is definitely capable of bluffing, but I feel like in this situation, ace-10, just not good enough to call, so unfortunately I fold, and we will never know. Straddle pot, under the gun makes it 75. I make it 250 on the button with ace-jack suited. Straddle makes to call and under the gun makes to call. 3 ways to a queen high board with 2 hearts, flush draw for us. Checks to me. I bet 275 and only the under the gun player makes to call. Heads up now to the 7 on the turn. When he checks to me, I could continue to barrel here, or I could check and try to realize my equity, and I decided to go with option number 2, trying to hit a flush. Trying to hit an ace. Maybe ace high is good, so I check behind. River card, I miss everything. I don't feel like bluffing with this particular combo, so when he checks, I check this one back.
4. Good, yep, you got me. I had so many outs.
You moved down the rankings from the worst player.
You know, we moved up in the ranking.
No,
I moved down.
The ranking
Even though that hand was completely boring, I feel like it's necessary to show that not every single hand's a huge all-in pot or a crazy hero call. Sometimes it's just boring poker where you miss your outs, you lose the pot, you move on to the next one. In this hand, I've got pocket 6s I raise and get 1 caller and see a flop of 10-4 deuce with 2 spades. On this flop, I bet $100 and my opponent makes the call, and for the second time this session, we turn a set beautiful 6 of hearts. Now my opponent leads into me for $225. Pretty good spot for us. My opponent called pre-flop, called our flop bet, and now leads out when we turn a set. He could have 3-5 for a straight, but I'm not going to be scared of that. I bump it up to $700, and the big blind doesn't think for too long and makes the call. Big pot brewing here, $1,500+ in the middle. Pocket 6s for a set to the queen of clubs on the river. My opponent checks, and in the past I tend to overbet the size of the pot when I have really good hands. I've noticed that I don't always get paid off when I use those sizings, so I switch it up now and go with a smaller sizing, around 1/3 size of the pot, $500, one purple chip in the middle, basically targeting all 10x one pair holdings. Once he leads out and calls my raise, he can easily have a hand like ace 10, king 10, jack 10. I'm hoping he calls with those hands. He's probably not going to have a queen X holding unless it's queen X of spades. Just looking for a call with my pocket sixes, and I do get called to win a big pot to close out the night. After this, the game ends up breaking. At one point, I was down over $2,000, and I end up cashing out for over $8,000. A nice little profit here at Seminole Casino Coconut Creek. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Florida, getting Rogue some exercise on a walk outside, and it looks like I'm getting some sunburn. May need to apply some SPF. Anyway, as for the session, we were down early on, around $2,000, came back winning that huge pot with pocket deuces, full house on the river, to profit over $3,000 on the day. Now next week, I'm catching a flight and I'm heading to Boston. Haven't been there in about 10 years. My brother is currently enrolled in the Harvard Law School. My dad is there visiting him. So I'm gonna head up there, gonna play some poker, Encore Boston, Chasers, Boston Billiards, or whatever they changed their name to. Should be fun. If you guys are in the area, maybe I can see you play some poker, but that's it for this one. I'm going to head back inside so I don't become a red lobster and go play some more poker today. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Please like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you.